So today we're going to discuss worm beds. Now, your what's known as Canadian night crawlers or night crawlers are difficult to raise. You got to keep the right mulch, the right temperature, the right humidity, all of that. Okay, a much easier one to use. We're getting into the winter here, and this is when we start using what is commonly called red wigglers. Whoops, they're crawling all up in there. They're overpopulating. And these are all babies. Give me a second, let me clean these up. There we go. All my worms are having babies, and they're trying to go for non-greener pastures. As you see, most of my stuff is gone here. But if I turn that over, you see all the red wigglers in there. And what I've got to do is mix this up. We got some nice ones in there too. Oh, there we go. I'm simply going to mix this up. You always want to, every couple of weeks, you just want to come out. I keep a very small, oh, there's another nice size one. And basically you're aerating it. And I just keep this in a small, I think this is about a 60-liter bucket. There's another one. Now, for your seeding material, a lot of people will go to a compost, which works very well. If you don't have access to a compost and you can't go digging your own, because you can just go dig them. There's also, you can put a couple of steel rods in the ground, connect them to a battery, and they squirm out of the ground because you're electrifying them. You just collect your worms. Get yourself a watertight tub, okay? By watertight, I mean it won't leak out, because your baby worms and stuff will go right. If there's water going out, they're going to find a way to get out. Now, what I do is I started with some basic ground potting soil, that red stuff over there. Put my worms in, mixed it up, and then as we do dinners and so on, if I'm not turning the stuff into fish food or human food, what I will do is, like my wife, she drinks lots of coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. But this is some of the carrot tops. I didn't dehydrate all my carrot tops. And I'll put a bed of that down. The composting helps keep it warm. And also it helps hold the moisture in. You don't want it too wet. Don't want it too dry. Now, for me, what I do, you can some people just put a lid over it. And if you're gonna put anything over this to keep them from crawling out, they will crawl out, is you need something with holes. Now, this was an old one that I had. It's a bit smaller. Doesn't quite fit it. Come on, get out of there. There. And I just set it on top. You notice here, I've got to get a new lid for this. This is going into the greenhouse. I don't want them crawling out all over the greenhouse. But the important thing is you've got to have holes that allows airflow. You've got to have moisture release. If you do not have a moisture release, then you start getting mold and mildew in here, and it will kill your worm bed. A lot of people lose their worm beds because they've sealed it thinking they're going to keep the moisture in, and keep everything nice and moist for the worms. And actually, if there is no air getting in there, or minimum air, you're not allowing it to breathe, then it's just going to grow mold, mildew, and it's going to kill everything. Your stuff will not compost properly. If the mold and mildew doesn't kill your worms, then they'll starve to death. Okay, so when I put a lid over this, I'm going to put holes in it because I want this to breathe. That is the basics of a worm bed. You can make it as big or as small as you want. I could have made it half this size, but I wanted my worms to have some room. I had the buckets, so why not use them? And voila, there you go. Instant little worm bed. This comes out in the summer and sits in the hallway and is covered. So here, see, it's not getting rained and filled up with water or anything. And in the winter, it goes out into my greenhouse, or you could take it down and put it in your cellar or in your hallway, or just somewhere that it's not going to get freezing temperatures. There's so little earth in this that if this stays constantly cold out here, we get down to like sometimes -15, -20 Celsius. And so this stuff would freeze solid in here. And I don't want to freeze my worms, so they go into the greenhouse. And if I didn't have a greenhouse, they'd go down in the cellar or somewhere that it never reached below, say, 10 degrees Celsius. So for the winter, I'm putting it here next to my ginger. I've put a piece of insulation on the bottom to keep it off the ground. This is when we did the aquaponics system, we insulated it before we put the pond foil in. This was some that was left over, so it's coming in perfectly useful now. This is asbestos free, so it's totally safe for plants, animals, humans, everybody. Well, as safe as you can get when it comes to chemically made insulation. So we have a piece down here to get it off the ground, a piece up here to help insulate, and you noticed I have, these are 8mm, no, these are 10mm or 1 centimeter diameter holes to allow for ventilation. And then on that, just to keep everything snug and secure, you just put a little brick on there. I have bricks over here, but these is to hold my diesel, which goes for my 2 8-kilowatt heaters that I keep this in the winter. That's what heats in here until we can get the solar installed, the photovoltaic installed. So let me get back to work here.